If you're in your 60s and planning for retirement, there are two fears that keep people up at night. The first is, what happens to my income if my spouse passes away? And the second, is my money actually protected, or am I one bad market away from losing a fortune? We're tackling both of those questions today on the Howdy Neighbor Retirement Show.
It's the Howdy Neighbor Retirement Show.
Howdy neighbor, I'm Michael Andrews with Andrews Insurance and Advisory, and you're listening to the Howdy Neighbor Retirement Show. If you're retired or getting close and you've built up a real nest egg, you know that every decision feels heavier now. The questions get more serious, the mistakes get more expensive, and the margin for error gets a whole lot smaller. Today's questions from Mary and Jasper hit those two areas where I see people worry the most. What happens to your Social Security income if your spouse passes away, and whether bonds still make sense when you're trying to protect the money that you've spent a lifetime saving. So let's get into it. Our first question this week comes from Mary, who sent me an email in that says, "Hey Michael, I'm confused about Social Security. I plan to begin taking mine at age 62 for $1,500 a month. My spouse will take his at age 70 for $4,000 a month. If he passes away, what Social Security benefit would I receive?" Mary, thanks for this question, and this is one of the most important ones that a married couple can ask heading into retirement. And a lot of people get this wrong, so let's try to make this as simple as humanly possible. When a spouse passes away, Social Security does not stack those two checks together. You don't get to keep your benefit and your spouse's benefit. The smaller check is replaced by the larger one. So in your case, if your husband passes away first, you would step up to his higher benefit, the $4,000 a month, as long as you file for the survivor benefit at your full retirement age. Your own $1,500 benefit at that point would go away. And here's a quick clarification I want to add because a lot of people don't realize this. You can take a survivor benefit before your full retirement age, but it will be permanently reduced. So your decision to start your own benefit at age 62 does not affect the survivor amount, as long as you wait until your full retirement age switch, but taking the survivor benefit early does reduce it, and that's where people accidentally leave money on the table. And let me say this, because this is the part that people feel but rarely say out loud. When a spouse passes away, you don't just lose a partner, you'll also lose an income stream. So planning for that possibility now before anything happens is one of the best gifts that you can give yourself. So before we move on to the next one, if you're in a stage of life where losing a spouse or losing part of your portfolio in a bad market year would be devastating, this is the time to get a second set of eyes on things. Survivor benefits, portfolio risk, Social Security timing, these decisions all tie together. If you want someone to help you make sure everything works the way you think it will, just call or text me at 918-842-7379, and I would be glad to help. Okay, on to our next question this week, and this one comes from Jasper, who wrote in to say, "Hey Michael, I've heard some people say to avoid bonds altogether. Is that a mistake? Should someone in retirement still be in bonds, or is it smarter to avoid them?" Jasper, this is one of the most common and misunderstood questions that I hear from people who have spent a lifetime saving and now want to protect what they've built. Because underneath this question is something a lot of people feel, and that is, I'm scared of losing a big chunk of my savings, and I don't know what the right mix of investment should be anymore. So let's talk about it in a real simple, real-world way. There are people who avoid bonds completely. Usually it's because they've heard bonds are boring, or that they don't grow as fast as stocks, or they think bonds don't work anymore. But here's the truth. Bonds are not in your portfolio to make you rich. They are put in place to protect you from getting poor. When the market drops, and the market will drop, bonds are what gives you something stable to draw income from. Imagine being 65 or 70 years old with $1 million or $2 million saved, and the stock market takes a 25% plunge. If everything that you own is in stocks, that hurts. But the real danger is having to sell those stocks at the worst possible time to create income. That's what ruins retirements. Not the drop, but the forced selling during the drop. And bonds are put in place to help prevent that. Now, not all bonds behave the exact same way. Short-term, high-quality bonds tend to stay steadier when interest rates move. Long-term bonds can be more volatile, and some retirees need very little bond exposure, while others needs more. It just depends on your income sources, your risk tolerance, and how much volatility that you can emotionally handle. But here is the bottom line. If you're in retirement or close, your biggest risk is not missing out. It's not making an extra dollar or two here and there on stock gains. The biggest risk out there is taking more volatility than you can afford and it blowing up your plan. This is why most people your age need at least some bonds, not for growth, but for balance. For stability, for sleep at night money, for protection during the years when you're taking withdrawals. Now, can you avoid bonds altogether? Sure, some people can, especially if they have a pension or enough guaranteed income that a market drop would not affect their lifestyle. But for most retirees, bonds are a tool, and smart planning is never about owning all of one thing or none of another. It's about building a mix that protects your money and supports your income in good markets and in bad. So today we tackled two questions that are extremely important when it comes to retirement security. Mary reminded us of how important it is to understand what happens to your income if a spouse passes away, because one misunderstanding in survivor benefits can change your entire retirement plan. And Jasper's question showed us why your investment mix matters just as much as your income, especially when you're trying to protect your nest egg that needs to last for the rest of your life. So if you have got a question that you would like for me to tackle on the show, shoot me an email at michael@andrewsadv.com. I read every single one of them, and I just might answer yours on a future episode. You've worked hard to build your retirement, and you don't have to make these decisions alone. If you want a second opinion on your retirement plan, I'm here to help. It doesn't cost anything for me to take a look, but not letting me, man alive, it could cost you thousands. So if you're ready to take this relationship to the next level, you can call or text me at 918-842-7379. Or head on over to andrewsadv.com and click on my calendar to schedule a time that works for you. And don't forget, the full replay of today's episode drops every Tuesday evening on the Howdy Neighbor Retirement Show Facebook page and YouTube channel. If you would, give it a like, leave a comment, and share it with a friend who could use some good neighborly retirement advice. Thanks again for listening, and we will see you all next week right here on the Howdy Neighbor Retirement Show. Thanks.
It's the Howdy Neighbor Retirement Show, helping you plan so your money will grow. No need to worry, we'll make it clear. Medicare and retirement right here.
A lot of people are saying the Howdy Neighbor Retirement Show is the most amazing show, and the ratings frankly proven.